Hello there, this is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I am here with international wine consultant Alberto Antonini. How are you today, sir?
Very well, thank you.
Now, we're here today to speak specifically about your project in Uruguay. And the first question I'm going to ask you is, why Uruguay?
Well, I first got there back in 2007 because the owner of this project is a friend of a wine family in Mendoza, the Pulenta family, and Carlos Pulenta is one of my clients in Mendoza. So a few years ago, he asked me, would you mind to get in touch with my friend Alejandro Bulgeroni, who has a property in Uruguay, and he would like to check with you if it's a place where we can grow, very good grapes and make very good wine. And that's how I ended up there the first time in 2007.
Now, had you tasted many wines from Uruguay previous to your visit?
I had tasted some because I have been working with many wineries in South America since 1996. So I have clients in Argentina and Chile, and I had the chance to taste several wines from Uruguay, mainly Tannat, before I started working there. But I never visited the country, despite it's very close to Argentina. But I'd never been there before. Mr. Bulgeroni asked me to meet with him on his property.
Now, we in Canada don't see many wines from Uruguay, but when I have had the opportunity to taste them, they tend to have come from, and excuse my pronunciation here, the region called Canelones.
Yes.
And from my readings, I've found that you have gone on record saying you don't feel that the soils here are perfect for making the best wine of Uruguay.
Well, I believe that the reason why most of the industry is in Canelones is not because Canelones is the best terroir in Uruguay. The main reason is probably because all the immigrants who arrived in Montevideo, mainly at the end of the 19th century, they developed vineyards in the countryside near the city, and that's how Canelones developed. But to me, the problem there is that since you are in a quite humid and rainy environment, which is basically Rio de la Plata in Canelones or Atlantic Ocean in Garzón type of climate. So since you have rain and humidity, having a soil which is quite heavy and deep and clay like in Canelones doesn't help you to grow successfully the grapes and to get the proper maturation of the tannins and the flavors, because obviously you would like to have a soil that after rain can get dry more quickly and not stay muddy and humid, because that doesn't allow the vines to have a good balance and to ripen the grapes. But the vines, you see them keep growing and keep vegetating, and that's to me is a problem in the maturation of the tannins, and that's probably the reason why the perception that most people have of Uruguayan Tannat is of a wine which is interesting because it's got complexity, it's got spices, but in the mouth probably is a little bit too rustic, especially the tannins are a bit harsh and rustic. And I believe it's definitely coming from the grape, which is a grape with a lot of tannins, but more than that is coming from an environment which probably doesn't fit very well with this grape as other terroir could fit.
So the soils, the very specific soil structure where your vineyards are planted, or the vineyards you work with, that is near the town of Garzón. I believe that to be a soil type you call balestro?
Balastro, yes.
Balastro.
Yeah, it's that's the name of the soil, but it's basically there are two main reasons why the terroir in Garzón is very, very different from Canelones. The first reason is because the soil is completely different. The balastro is the alteration of a granite mother rock, so is very similar to the soils of Galicia, for example.
Right.
And if you look at the soil, has got a lot of small stones, so mixed with depending on where you are, but mixed with sand or sand and clay, but in general always very rocky and very well drained. I mean, in Garzón, after a heavy rain, you see the soil getting dry straight away, you know, and that's great because allows you to, first of all, allows the plants to, you know, to live on drier soils with all the benefit for the maturation of the grapes, but also allows to the people who work in the vineyard to get in and do all their work without, you know, getting stuck into the mud, which is important too, and go through with the operation that has to be done. So the soil is the first difference, and the second difference is also the vicinity to the Atlantic Ocean,
yes,
and not to the Rio de la Plata. The Atlantic Ocean has got a very nice cool breeze coming through every day, as opposed to the breeze of the Rio de la Plata, which is not as clean and as, you know, as healthy in a way, because it's a bit more, you know, humid and heavy. So these are the two main differences that I found in these two terroirs.
You have chosen an interesting palette of grapes to grow down there. The aforementioned Tannat, but also Viognier, Albarino, and Petit Manseng, as well as some Pinot Noir, some Sauvignon Blanc, and some Pinot Grigio.
Yeah, well, you know, when I started this project, it was not easy to decide what to grow because we were in a fantastic place that I like very much for its vicinity to the Atlantic Ocean, for its granitic soils, and also for the amazing level of biodiversity, which always makes me feel very comfortable with the idea of making premium wines. Because if you see where most of the premium wines are made in the world, are always places with a lot of biodiversity. You see, you know, Tuscany, Piedmont, Burgundy, Rioja. So it's, to me, that's very important too. But you know, we had no references. There were no vineyards in the area. So when it came to the point of what should we develop, it was not an easy decision to make. So I wanted definitely to develop the most important red grape in Uruguay, which is Tannat, and that's what we did. And as a white, you know, I had the feeling that because of the similarity with the environment, the Albarino should do very well.
Sure.
And that was the main focus, was from day one. Obviously, since the owner wanted to plant, you know, 200 hectares of vineyard, I didn't feel comfortable to play only two cards, you know, and go just with Albarino and Tannat, because I wanted to see also how they were performing and how other grapes would perform. So I decided to, with the owner, to have the core of the business with, you know, Albarino for the whites and Tannat for the reds, but at the same time I wanted to develop other grapes that I was feeling they could do well in such an environment. That's why I developed these other white grapes. And some other, like Pinot Grigio, was not much the environment, was more like the idea of having something maybe initially be more commercial, or, you know,
yes, yeah.
it's you know, it's, you are in a new place, it's not your property, so you made decision for a client, so just you want to be a bit more prudent. But I think over time we are going to focus more and more on these two grapes, because even the other are very interesting, they're doing well, but I think these two are really the two which are standing out.
That would be the Albarino and the Tannat.
Yeah, for sure.
How does Cabernet Franc perform down there?
Very well. I'm amazed by, I love Cab Franc in general. I like it better than Cab Sauv in the family of Cabernets. And I was, you know, not very happy with the results of the first couple of years, but that's normal because, you know, Cabernet Franc is one of the grapes that requires several years, at least 7 or 8 years of vine age before giving good results. It's not like some other grape that can perform quite well at the beginning when they are very young, like, you know, Malbec or Syrah, which obviously also benefit from, you know, being older, but still they can make good wines at the beginning. You know, these grapes, you know, the Tannat is not one of them. So, Cab Franc is not one of them. So initially was not very well balanced, but from year 6, since it was planted, so in 2015, really was showing a beautiful complexity and juiciness and freshness. So I really enjoy that a lot. That can be probably the second best red.
Alberto, thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution today and giving us your insights into the world of wine and as you know it. We look forward to tasting your wines this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Welcome. I talk too much probably, but I enjoyed that.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.